Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of This Month in Canal Fulton. We have a great guest here to start off with, Bill Keltner. But before we get to Bill, I just want to send out a special thanks to the staff here at MCTV. Most of you know that I was a teacher and coach for 35 years, and I guess it's in my nature to push people to the limit. And I just want to thank the staff here at MCTV because what they're doing for us today is nothing short of exceptional. So if it all works as planned, it will be incredible. But thank you for their support. So Mr. Keltner, welcome to This Month in Canal Fulton. And can you tell us a little bit about your career and who you are and where you came from?
Okay, well, before I became to the city of Canal Fulton, which I'll be there 3 years in March.
Okay.
I spent most of my career in retail and restaurant management.
Okay.
But I have had tax preparation with Jackson Hewitt and as an independent tax preparer.
Yeah. So what prompted you to want to leave the private sector?
Well, to be honest, it was the hours. Retail management is very time consuming. It takes up a lot of your personal time. I was looking more for a quality of life situation, and unfortunately government gives that to you.
Right, that's fantastic. And you dealt a lot with the public, I'm sure.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that really appealed to us when we interviewed you. So, all righty. So you've been with the city for 3 years?
Yes.
And what do you like to do in your free time?
In my free time, my biggest thing, I volunteer with the Perry Township Lions Club. I've been with them for 28 years. I'm also the zone chairperson for Zone 9, which is basically the western part of Stark County. Yeah.
So a lot of our audience may recognize you from your involvement with the Perry Rotary or Perry Lions Club.
Lions, yes.
There we go.
Yes, I know a lot of them in the Northwest and Canal Fulton Lions Club.
Good, good. All righty. What else do you do in your free time?
I like to golf. Not very good at it, but and hike. And but my best part is spending time with Lisa and my 5 amazing grandchildren. Yeah. That takes up a majority of my free time now. So.
Time well spent, though, huh?
Very well spent.
All righty. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And we're going to try to do something now, Bill, is what we're going to try to do is switch over to the screen, so you folks at home are going to be able to see the TV screen, the computer screen. So, Bill, you want to talk people through what you're doing here? What
we're doing today is we started, and I'm very excited about this, in 2019 for the 2018 tax year, is we started e-file. You can do that through our city website. There's a block over here that talks about the tax reform, and the e-file will take you right to the tax department webpage. Okay. The very first link is income tax e-file. Okay. And when you click on that, it takes you to a whole nother page of instructions. Okay. And it'll walk you through what you need to do to get into the e-file. And I encourage everyone to read all the instructions before they get to the bottom and click on the link for the e-file. All righty.
So our audience at home, hopefully, we don't want to go too fast for them or anything like that, but if they DVR this program, then they can refer back to it as we're going through it. So
yeah, we've already started it this year. We've had a good response and had some people already give some feedback that the system is very easy to use. Good. And they're very happy because this has been something that our community's been asking for. Yeah. And we're very happy to deliver it to them.
Right. Coming out of the Stone Ages. So how many people do we know?
So
how
far
many
we got 30.
30 people have taken advantage of e-file?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't have to print out any forms or anything
No,
like
the only time you do have to print it out if you did not file in a previous tax year of 2017 or before. If you have, you don't have to send anything in to us, but if you haven't, we still need to compare that documentation to make sure everything is correct on the form.
Okay. All right. What are you going to take us into next here?
So I'm going to take us directly to the website for the e-file, for Canal Fulton e-file, and I'm going to run through what we call a dummy account to show everyone how that works. So if you're an individual, you click on you're an individual. This is where your tax ID is your social security number. Okay. And then you'll have to set up a PIN. I already have a PIN set up for this account, so we're not going to walk through it.
Okay, but how many characters would that need to be?
It can be any amount.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
think when you go into that, I think it was anywhere from 6 to 14.
Okay. And then is it case sensitive and all that? You have
Yes.
to use so many uppercase, lowercase symbols or anything?
Yeah, there's no symbols that have to be used. You can
Okay.
pretty much use any PIN number that you would like.
Okay. Just what we need is more PIN numbers in
Yes.
our lives, right? Okay, what are we looking at here?
So right here, this is the welcome page. You're welcome to use the Canal Fulton e-file. It explains what documentation you can use here. And it also explains our tax rate and our credit.
Okay, and we'll be getting into the tax credit in
a
the
little
next
bit.
portion.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So when you continue from here, it's going to give you your taxpayer info. And in here, you can also update your taxpayer information. So if you move during the tax year, you're going to be able to update that, and that'll update it in the system, so you don't have to worry about calling us or mailing it in. It'll do it electronically through the e-file. Next part is going to talk about forms, the forms you can use. There is a form on here, part on here that's marked other. It doesn't mean anything, can't use it for anything, so
Okay.
it'll actually tell you that.
Okay.
But all the other forms here are acceptable forms to use on the e-file. So if you have self-employment or rental properties or farming or whatever, you can
Okay.
use those forms on this website.
Okay.
And it's going to tell us that we selected W-2s. So we did a dummy W-2 in here. We're going to walk through it here.
Okay.
On this W-2, this person just happened to make $40,000 in a year.
Okay.
You put in their employee ID number that's on the W-2, the company name, the local wages, and we're just saying that this person worked in Akron
Okay.
at the time. So they paid $1,000 in Akron. They had $40,000 in wages for the year.
Okay, so the Akron tax rate is 2.5%.
2.5%, that is correct.
The Canal Fulton rate is 1.5.
1.5, so they're going to get a credit of 0.75%
Okay.
for what they paid to Akron.
And that's something we're going to try to spend some time with, is understanding the connection to that 0.75% is really 50% credit.
Of our 1.5% tax.
Of our
yeah.
1.5%.
That is
Okay,
correct.
So
we're going to save this W-2 here, and it's going to come up here, and it's going to show you the form that was saved. And if there was any losses, anytime you would incur losses in an individual, if you had a self-employment or rental properties, we have a net operating loss of 5 years, which is currently being reviewed at the House. So we're not sure exactly where that's at yet,
Okay.
but we're going to go by the old way until they decide how that's
Okay.
going to work. Okay, so that gives you the summary of the forms. Okay, we'll just go on that part here. This is supposed to, there we go. This is what I wanted. This is going to come up your estimated taxes.
okay.
It's going to automatically figure out what your estimated taxes for the year would be. So your estimated taxes, Canal Fulton, would be $300 based on the $400,000 wages from your tax credit.
You mean the 40,000?
Yeah, the 40,000 in wages, yes.
Okay.
So, and then if there was any overpayment in taxes, this is where you would ask for a refund, or if you want to carry that money over
Okay.
to the next tax year, or you can split it up. You can
Okay.
carry some of it over and refund the rest.
Right.
So there's going to be a quick overview. It tells you what your wages were, what the tax due, your estimated income for the next year. This is what's going to be withheld. So this is in your estimate. So when you go to the final return, it's going to show a final return just like you would print it up at home online.
Uh-huh.
And before it would get to me, there's a button over here on the left, and you would click finalize.
Okay.
Once it has been finalized, that'll submit it to our offices. I'll import it in, and I'll be able to enter that into our system.
Okay.
One thing after you do finalize, there's going to be an option on here where you can make a payment online.
Okay.
That'll show up in the bottom right
All right.
of the return.
Okay. So they wouldn't need to write out a check or anything?
No,
like
no,
that?
there
They
is
can
a
pay it online.
processing fee if you do it online
Uh-huh.
that the taxpayer would need to cover. But if they did not want to do it online, they are able to send in a check or call it in.
Okay.
Okay.
And out of those 30 people who have been through this, we haven't had any real glitches yet where people have called in and needed to ask for help or anything?
Just a couple. Most of it was inputting. After they finalized, they realized they might have missed a W-2. But most of it has been easy fixes.
Great. Okay. All righty. Yep. Fantastic. So that's e-file, right?
That is e-file.
All right.
Very, very excited.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for all your hard work to make this available to our citizens.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joe.
All righty. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with Bill Keltner still and our Finance Director, Bill Rouse. So thank you very much, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, and welcome back to This Month in Canal Fulton, and we're back with our guest Bill Keltner and Bill Rouse, our finance director, has joined us to talk about that all-important issue of income tax reform. So before we get into that, Bill, you had some dates that you wanted to remind our residents of?
Just some important dates that have come up. The due date is April 15th of 2019 for your city returns, and that's when the balance due and your first quarter estimate is due. The other quarterly payments are June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th of 2020 will be the fourth quarter. And then we will be having 2 late days at the City of CanalFulton Income Tax Department. We'll be staying open from till 7 o'clock on April 4th and April 11th. And Trink and I will be there to help out with people's returns that aren't able to get there during normal business hours.
All right, super. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, and as I mentioned earlier, our income tax reform is going on the ballot May 7th, and so we think is really important, and we've tried to do everything possible to try to answer questions and put the information out there for our residents. And it would be a tax increase for some people. It may be it will be a tax savings for some people if it passes. So we want to try to do a real good job of being honest with people and basically just asking you to, vote your pocketbook. And we'll be fine regardless of what happens. We're not in financial straits or anything like that, but we do want to answer your questions, and we want to make ourselves available to do that as much as possible. So, Mr. Rouse, can you kind of take it over there and talk about our spreadsheet that you guys have developed to give people a tool to figure out how they would be impacted?
Sure, I'd love to. Just as a quick recap for our viewers that may not have heard about our tax reform, basically what the city is proposing to do is take our income tax from 1.5% to 2%. But then the flip side to that is our citizens only get 50% credit now for taxes they pay to other cities, and under the proposal, if they pass the tax increase, what we would do is then give them credit at 100% for the taxes they pay to other cities. And so what we believe is that is going to be a net win for a lot of our citizens, and then it will kind of equalize or normalize our tax code compared to all of the surrounding communities. And so that's just a brief recap. What you had mentioned as far as trying to give our folks additional tools that they can take a look and model their scenarios. What Bill and I've worked on is putting together a spreadsheet that our citizens could use to kind of see where their taxes are at right now, what they pay in taxes right now versus what they would pay under the proposed system if it were to pass. And the way that a citizen could get to that tool is they would go to our website, cityofcanalfulton-oh.gov, and then if you go back to that square box on the right-hand side of the website that Bill had showed everybody earlier.
Okay, and we're hoping right now our residents can see the screen you're on right now.
Yes.
And that's the miracle of MCTV and the work that they are doing here. So
excellent work.
We're trying to get to the point where we're getting hooked up and we can see it on screen as well. So Fantastic. Good.
Yep.
So if our citizen were to go to that that's part of our web page, and then you'll come to the Income Tax Reform 2020, and then there's a number of different tools and documents that answer questions. If you select the second one, Tax Proposal Calculator, and it'll bring up a spreadsheet that you would open here. It's an Excel spreadsheet. And this is what it would look like. Right. And if our citizens were to read through the instructions, we think they're pretty clear, but really what somebody needs is two pieces of information. They need their income from their W-2, what they earned last year. And then if they worked outside of the city, they would need to know how much they paid that city. So if you happen to work in Akron and you paid 2.5% to
Akron,
so you paid, in Bill's example, $1,250 to Akron, you would need to know that amount.
Okay.
If you know those two amounts, then the spreadsheet will self-populate. It'll do all the calculations behind the scenes and come up with your total.
Okay.
So what I would like to do is let's work through a couple of assumptions. Let's say that there's a household, a husband and a wife. And let's say the husband works in Akron and makes $50,000 a year. So what they would do on this spreadsheet is they'd come to the income cell and they would put in $50,000 for the income.
Okay, and that's just one of the spouses?
That's the husband, yeah. Okay. And we'll enter the wife here in a second.
Okay.
But so $50,000, and then he works in Akron, so he would have paid 2.5%. So we'll assume that his W-2 was correct and says $1,250.
Okay.
So what this is saying for him is in row 11 there, or the first income, $50,000, $12,000 or $1,250 paid to Akron.
Right.
And then because we don't give full credit for taxes paid elsewhere, he would then owe us $375 for a total tax of $1,625 paid between Akron and us.
Right.
Now let's say that the wife earns $55,000 and works in Green, which is a 2% income tax, and so she paid $1,100 to Green. You would put that in, and then the rest of the cells will automatically populate. So because again we don't give full credit, then she would owe us $412.50. So what happens is you would enter all your income. The way it's set up is you can put up to 6 W-2s in there, and then what we get to is under our current system, this household will pay $3,137.50 in total tax between Akron, Green, and ourselves.
Right.
So what then happens, and this is the beauty of the proposal, we think, is what we have underneath that first grouping of cells is what would happen to that household under the proposed system. And just a refresher, our proposed is to go to a 2% income tax for the whole city, but then give 100% credit for taxes paid to other cities. So in this scenario, what happens is the husband earned $50,000, works in Akron, so that part of the tax won't change. If you look, compare up above, that part stays the same. We don't change Akron at all. But what changes is they know, under this proposal, they no longer owe Canal Fulton any money. Right. And it's the same thing for the wife. She no longer owes any money to Canal Fulton. Okay. So what you can see is under the proposed tax, they would now pay $2,350 in total tax between Green and Akron, and nothing to Canal Fulton.
Okay.
And so then what this does is that net savings slash cost is the bottom line impact for this household in this example. They would realize a savings of $787.50.
Okay. So now they would still need to file a Canal Fulton return though? And it would basically be what we call a zero return?
That's correct.
Okay.
They would file a return, and then they would file a return as they have in the past. But what we would see is under the new proposal that they would not owe us any money, so it would just be a zero return. The one thing that this would, in this household's example, that would eliminate that everybody hates universally is then they would no longer have to deal with estimated tax payments during the upcoming year or those calculations or receiving bills from us during the year. And that's what would also kind of simplify and make everybody's lives easier.
Yeah, it sure would. And I think I think back to the statistics we have on our 2017 returns, and we had, I believe, 439 of our residents who worked in Akron. So that's a significant number of people who live in Canal Fulton and work in Akron who would be, applicable there with that 2.5% tax rate.
Right.
So
let me, if I can, maybe run through two more scenarios real quick of what we see. The next one would be a mixed household where one spouse works, say, in Akron and another spouse works in Canal Fulton. And this is a little bit one of the common scenarios we see. So if we go back to our data entry, we assume that husband is at $50,000 and then he paid tax to Akron at $1,250. Now let's assume that the wife lives in Canal Fulton, works in Canal Fulton. So she would make $55,000. Since she didn't pay any tax to any other city, she would just leave this cell blank. And the spreadsheet will automatically calculate then what would have been owed to Canal Fulton in this scenario. And so what happens is everything else just automatically populates. And so in this example of the mixed household, you've got their total tax would have been $2,450 under our current system. And in the proposed system, they do say the tax declines to $2,350. They do save $100, but you can see the savings aren't as dramatic, But even in this scenario, they would still experience some savings and then some benefit to the proposal. Now let me run through one last scenario, and so let's assume both the husband and wife work in Canal Fulton, and so the husband made $50,000. He did not pay anything to Akron or to any other city, so he worked in Canal Fulton. So we would leave this cell blank. The wife also worked in Canal Fulton, so we leave this cell blank. So this is the one downside of the tax proposal is if you're in this type of household, what you can see is under our current plan at 1.5%, you pay $1,575. This household under the proposed plan would pay $2,100, and so then what this is showing is they have a net cost of this from this proposal at $525. So that's kind of how you would use this calculator, the spreadsheet, and hopefully we can encourage our citizens to come in and take a look at this and use this as a tool to figure out how they should vote. And really what we expect is they should vote what's best for their pocketbook. And that's really what we're encouraging them to do. Now what Bill and I wanted to know is, out of those three different scenarios, what ends up being the most likely? What do we typically see? And so what we did is we took about 55 of our tax returns from 2017 that our citizens filed, And we took those and ran them through this spreadsheet calculator to see what would the results be. And what we found is out of those 55, we had 38 that fell into that first category where they ended up having a tax reduction from the proposal. The reduction, the range of it was about $100 to $1,200 in terms of savings. And the average savings for that group of folks was $382. So you had a lot of different variances. Right. But what the common denominator was, those folks typically were working in Akron or Canton or Greene, Alliance, cities that had a tax rate of 2% or higher. Those are the big savers from this proposal. Okay. We had 3 out of our 55. We had 3 of them that I call break even. Those were more of those mixed households where one was working outside of the city and one's working in the city. And then we had 14 of them where they ended up owing a little bit more tax. And that range of when they owed, it was between $4 and $370. Okay. And then the average amount owed there was $140. Okay. So that's where, you know, that calculator comes in, and those are the results. But it looks like somewhere between 60 to 65, 66% of our tax returns would benefit from
Fantastic. This. So we have about 1 minute left. So I want to, if you could bring up the language that our voters are going to see on the ballot. And this is really important for us to understand that the 100% credit language will not appear on the ballot when they go to cast their votes on May 7th. So you're able to bring that up on your screen there?
Yes, it's on the screen now, and it's just a limitation of the state of Ohio. We can't put tax reform as a reason for a tax proposal to go to the ballot. So the ballot language, when voters go to look at this, all they're going to see is that there's a proposal to increase our tax by 0.5% for the purpose of paying our current expenses. That's what's allowed based on the Ohio's model for ballot language. What people have to understand is that there's a second ordinance that says if that 0.5% tax rate increases or is approved, then we will then give the 100% credit for taxes paid to the other municipality, and that's where this highlighted text in the ordinance language is shown. It's Ordinance 5118. If anybody has questions, I can certainly provide it to them. But it is in code and it is in written text that if they pass that ballot language, then the 100% credit will take effect.
Beginning in 2020.
Beginning in 2020. Now the caveat to that is this section 2 that I'm highlighting is the thing that says if the citizens don't approve the tax increase, then our code remains unchanged and we keep the current system.
Right. So, pretty simple. All right. Folks, it's a big issue for us, and like I said, we're not in desperate, dire straits financially. We've negotiated contracts for the next 3 years with 2% raises with all of our employees, so we think we've done a lot of things financially to stabilize the city, and this is just a good opportunity to let our voters speak to this issue. And so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. And thank you very much again to the folks at Massillon Cable or MCTV. Great job. Have a great day, everyone.